So the secret sauce is that we have this community of 2,600 quality providers, and these are mostly moms. What I love about this is we're teaching them how to be entrepreneurs. So we teach them about hospitality, cleanliness, safety, and they take all those things very seriously. We help them get a Google My Business page, integration with Nextdoor, how to do affiliate marketing, how to sign up those hotels and vacation rentals in their town. I felt always we had to earn their business by giving them the tools and the support that they needed.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Today, we have joining us Fran Maier, who originally was one of the co-founders of Match.com and now is the CEO of BabyQuip, which I'm very excited for us to dig deeper into how they're growing this two-sided marketplace of baby gear rentals for traveling parents and families and all the things. So we'll get into the details of that case study in just a moment. But first, Fran, welcome to our show.
So glad to be here. Thank you for having me, Ellen.
Absolutely. It's an honor to interview someone who is really so historied, right? In terms of
old, you mean?
No, not old, just like to have the depth of the experience that you have across building, brands that are household names. I mean, I've never personally been on Match.com, but I know many of people who have and who have even found their spouses through the work that you've done. So thank you so much for that. I guess to start off our interview, I usually ask our guests what their Cubicle to CEO story is, but for you, I feel like I would love to know the initial catalyst that led you into entrepreneurship in general, but then also kind of how you ended up at BabyQuip, because to my understanding, there was already some momentum there, right? And then you ended up coming on board.
To some extent, I was always a little bit business focused. My dad would, drive me to school and talk about, he was in financial services, so he would talk about maybe a deal he closed or something like that. I went to college initially starting to study English, but before you know it, I was taking all kinds of business classes. And in my senior year in college, I opened up a frozen yogurt stand, which was brand new to have frozen yogurt. I mean, this is how old I am. We're talking 1983 or so. Okay. So a long time ago. But then I did do the corporate thing. And after business school, I worked at the Clorox company in brand management. And then as I've told my sons, then the internet happened. And at that point I had left Clorox and I was working at AAA, the auto membership program. And I'm in San Francisco and it's happening. And the first time I saw the internet, I said to myself, or maybe I said it out loud, this is going to change everything, And for younger people, they don't know that it happened, okay? It was around that time, in fact, as I mentioned to you earlier, I'm in the Stanford area for my business school and undergraduate reunion weekend. And it was at one of my reunion weekends at my business school that I ran into Gary Kremen, and he was starting this company called Electric Classifieds. It was to put newspaper classifieds online, but we were going to introduce Match.com as online dating. And Gary wanted somebody with marketing experience, and he wanted a woman. He thought having a woman would bring a good perspective to this category. And I pretty much went after that position right away because I just wanted to be in it. I wanted to do something in the internet, and this seemed as good a one as any other at that point in time. And it was crazy.
Yeah. I'm so thankful that you saw the vision for it before you saw what was possible, right? And that really is the pioneering of so much of what's been created from that. But it took early believers like you to see the potential in it. So I know we're all grateful for that. But continue with how then you found your way to BabyQuip.
So I was at Match for about 3 years. We sold it for less than $8 million. So sometimes being a pioneer and being early is not good because you don't know how good you had it. Okay. I mean, that was a travesty. And then I did a few other startups, mostly in marketing and business development roles. I spent 10 years at a company called Trustee, now called TrustArc. It's best known for its privacy certification. And I was there for over 10 years, and I turned it from a nonprofit industry association to a for-profit company and raised some capital, mostly because the issues of privacy and security were just getting bigger. And of course, that hasn't changed. And I'd say that at this point is getting me into the 2010s. I was very dedicated to building trusted brands, but I wasn't into privacy anymore. And I left TrustArc and post-divorce moved across the bay from Alameda to San Francisco. Mexico, bought a house on Potrero Hill, 3-story house, 2 really nice bedrooms on the top floor. And I say this because within months, I was renting rooms in my house on Airbnb. Now, Airbnb's headquarters were down the street. This is 2012. I didn't buy the house thinking I would do that, but it was kind of like in the air. I was curious. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to rent a room and see how it goes. Well, before you know it, Ellen, I'm making, renting these 2 rooms for $150 a night each, and having people come in and out of my house all the time. A lot of them worked at Airbnb for that matter. And because I was so close to the headquarters. And then I bought a house in Santa Fe, New Mexico, which is my hometown where I live now, for a rental property. Then I bought another one. And all of a sudden, I'm in hospitality. I'm in the gig economy. And it gets me thinking about, well, what's going to change? Because whenever there's a massive change, and right now I'd say we're in the massive change of AI, but, there's the internet, then there's mobile, and then there's, social media and gig economy or sharing economy or marketplaces. And now it's a lot of AI, I think that's happening. And whenever there's these massive cultural and technological changes, this is where entrepreneurs jump in, you know. So I started to think about what are the businesses that are going to evolve from the way people are traveling and the way people are working, this whole gig economy thing. And as you mentioned earlier, I met a gal in Santa Fe, again, my hometown. She came out to the Bay Area where I was advising startup founders because I wasn't going back to a regular job because I was making so much money renting rooms in my house. So
What a great situation to be in. Yeah.
So I was doing some board work and things like that. Anyway, Carrie comes over, and because she's from Santa Fe, I say, well, yeah, I'm going to meet with you for sure. And she gives me the pitch, and it was the very beginnings of a gig economy powered marketplace for renting baby gear. But at that point, there was only 2 locations. And in that first meeting, I said, well, Carrie, I should be your CEO. And which was kind of cheeky. And she didn't say yes right away. I didn't expect her to. But it started the conversation. And by May of 2016, we formed BabyQuip and started the expansion process.
Wow. And the rest, as they say, is history, right? But I really love and appreciate how being an early adopter is a through line of your entire career, right? And I see that here too with BabyQuip being an amalgamation of, like you said, of the gig economy, of the popularity of rentals, of just the way that people are more mobile in their location these days, how we can work remote, how so many people are just more flexible with location freedom. And so just for some context for our listeners, before we actually get into the case study around how investing in your internal infrastructure to support your independent contractors or quality providers, as you call them, before we get into that side, I think it'd be helpful for our listeners just to better understand how BabyQuip works. If this is the first time they've heard of it, maybe they're not parents themselves. Who is BabyQuip for? How does the business model work, right? Could you just give us a little context there?
So as I said, BabyQuip is for traveling families with young children. Where are you at, Ellen?
I'm in Oregon.
Okay, so they could say they're going to Oregon and what dates. They could come to babyquip.com or their app, put in where they're going, their dates, and pick the baby gear that they want while they're there. And everything from strollers, car seats, cribs, but toys, baby baths, monitors. I think we have over 100,000 items on the platform.
Wow.
And soon, if you're a family with a pet, you could also rent pet gear.
Oh, so smart.
And soon outdoor gear, because maybe you're going to the Oregon coast. And not only will you want those chairs and an umbrella, but maybe a nice blanket to keep you warm.
Yes, you know how our coastline works. Exactly.
Exactly. So the way that the secret sauce is that we have this community of 2,600 quality providers. And these are mostly moms. They're the ones that own the gear. They're the ones who might live in your destination in Oregon. And so would deliver to you, maybe even set up the crib, car seat, stroller. Not car seats. We don't set up car seats, but cribs, strollers, and things like that. So they make pretty good money. They keep 78% of the item fees and delivery fees and any surcharges. Surcharge might be if you want us to meet you at the airport. Well, that's a little bit more expensive, understandably. And on average, the quality providers, I think last year were making over $1,500 a month once they got going. We have some that are doing thousands of thousands a month. And this is more than just renting gear that you already had from your own children. They're actively building up their inventory so that they have more and more to offer visitors to their location. And that's how we do it.
Yeah, and I love to see how there's so much opportunity now for people to be an independent business owner and be able to really get creative with, how they want to service their, I mean, it's BabyQuip's clients, but in many ways, their clients too, right?
Oh, yeah, no. What I love about this is we're teaching them how to be entrepreneurs. So we
Hmm.
teach them about hospitality, cleanliness, safety, and they take all those things very seriously. We help them get a Google My Business page, an integration with Nextdoor, how to do affiliate marketing, how to sign up those hotels and vacation rentals in their town. We have a private community on Facebook, so busy every day, and they're posting everything from here's a great deal on this particular stroller at Walmart or someplace, or they're posting I have this difficult customer, or maybe they're posting yesterday I saw that somebody got their 500th order and some props for that. And sometimes they take photos of how they pack their car or their garage with all the baby gear. So they really help each other. And what's really unique about this opportunity, probably one of the most unique things, is a lot of them do it with their children. I've heard of moms on our platform who, had to leave the corporate world for one reason or another, but love that they could contribute to their family and they could do this with their kids and they get a lot of gratification and joy from it.
What a wonderful opportunity, like you mentioned, to really build business around your life rather than the other way around. And I'm really curious, just from your perspective of when you stepped into this role as CEO and started to expand and fully launch BabyQuip, why go the route of independent contractors and this gig economy and empowering people to, have micro businesses within your larger infrastructure of a business rather than say start corporate locations and hotspots for BabyQuip where you own the equipment and you're renting it out yourself?
Well, I mean, first of all, owning equipment and all of that is a big capital expense. So we're very capital efficient because we don't own anything other than maybe to take some photos. So really capital efficient. I think it led us to expand more quickly, that this is a unique opportunity. So I think it'd be harder to find employees if we had gone that route. I also really resisted the franchise route. Remember, this is when Uber and Lyft and all these other services are just emerging. And, the more cars you put on the road with that sign, the more you're going to know about it. So I really resisted assigning territories or giving anybody, anything that even looked like a franchise because I thought there was a lot of unmet demand and the best way that we're going to do it is to get out there. The other thing that's kind of related is that a lot of investors early on said, well, why don't you just do it in the LA market before you expand everywhere? And I kind of really bucked that advice by saying, no, if we're a travel brand, we got to be where people are traveling, And our experience was as soon as we put the quality providers or turn them on in a marketplace, we had orders. I mean, there was demand. And I also, looked at the market before we entered it. There was really no national competitor. There was no national brand. We're the only ones even now. Some regional brands, and certainly around Anaheim and Orlando, there's some mom and pops and so on that have been there forever. But we really had an opportunity to dominate a category. And in a marketplace, if you could dominate a category, that's golden.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, to your point, the challenges in starting a capital heavy business are so different in terms of your speed at which you can run and test, right? Compared to having your quality providers really take on the responsibility of supplying inventory. And that kind of leads us right into today's case study where I think realize it seems from what I'm hearing early on that your quality providers are your greatest assets. Those people, that community is what makes BabyQuip work. And so you have chosen to invest in support infrastructure for these, just for our listeners, if I say QP, that's what I'm referring to, quality providers, just for short. So, so if you've invested in support infrastructure for your QPs, and one of the primary ways you've done this is through investing in building a proprietary tech platform that streamline their back-end business operations. And by doing so, you actually saw a growth in your QP network by 60%. So I would love to understand, how this strategic decision directly correlated to this massive expansion that you saw in the number of providers that were on your platform. Prior to building this proprietary tech, what were your QPs using to operate their business, and what were some of the challenges that you were seeing them come across in being able to facilitate these rentals?
Yeah, so we turned on the technology pretty darn quick. Early on, they would have to get their own Stripe account. Stripe makes it pretty easy, but it's still too hard. And I would say over the years, the technology platform has become increasingly strong. So for example, we didn't have inventory management early on. They would have to keep track of what inventory they had, when it was available, and all of that. Now, of course, we have inventory management. And that's critical because it's better for us to be able to show the customer who has a particular inventory that they're looking for. If there's a recall or something that we had to take off the platform, we can do it automatically. So that helps us in that regard. But I'd say I don't even know how many years we didn't have inventory management. So it's over time. My overall philosophy, just stepping back, is that quality providers can have their own baby gear rental business, or they could list with another one or whatever. I felt always we had to earn their business, by giving them the tools and the support that they needed. Probably the most strategic thing that we did that nobody else can offer is we have liability insurance that covers the quality providers as well as the company. And most of our quality providers, they're married, they own their own homes, God forbid. And you know what? And I'm going to knock on the wood. We've never had a claim or anything, which is great, right? But God forbid, it could happen, probably will happen. Super important that we have coverage. What that insurance coverage does is quality providers keep orders on the platform, because if they were to take them off platform and just exchange with the customers directly, well, there's no insurance. Right. It is also very important for our partnerships that we have insurance. And we have partnerships with lots of travel agents, hospitality companies, hotels, vacation rentals, and so on. So really important that we have that coverage. I'd say a third thing that we did, and this was a very, very important thing, is during the pandemic, obviously people stopped traveling, right? And we had probably then less than 1,000 quality providers on the platform. Now we have over 2,600. But I want to make sure they still had something to do. And so we launched a cleaning business to clean the car seats mostly and strollers mostly for local families. It's not a big part of our business now, but it was something that showed them that we wanted to help them during this time. And cleanliness, of course, was very big during the pandemic. And I think it showed our dedication to them and that we built this service that they could do.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think it's so creative how, you found different ways to provide income opportunities, right, during a time when their main source was being cut off. So I love that you did that you pivoted with them and didn't just leave them kind of to figure things out on their own. The two key takeaways from what you just shared about how this tech infrastructure helped your QPs that I want to just pull out again for our listeners is, one, you assumed the majority of the risk with the liability policy. So I think regardless of what type of business you have, as those of you who are listening, even if, you're not obviously in the rental space or you don't maybe employ a network of independent contractors, I think it's important just to always think like, how do you reduce risk as much as possible for your end customer or end user? So that's one thing I want you to take away from what Fran said. And then another thing you said, Fran, was just that what seems like a very small ask, like, okay, sign up for a free Stripe account, probably takes 60 seconds for someone to do so. But you're right. It is an extra step. And it is, if someone's unfamiliar with being paid in that way, like if they've always worked only a W-2 job where they get a paycheck direct deposited, sometimes it feels scary to sign up for something different that you're not familiar with. And so I think your dedication to reducing the friction in the onboarding process or making the adoption of whatever platform it is easier is also something that I want to make sure our listeners really come away from when they're thinking through their own products and services. How do they apply that same principle to their businesses? So that was really helpful. I'm just curious if there was anything else that you specifically noticed around the infrastructure improvements that really made it more attractive for new people to join or to even hear or learn about BabyQuip, because 60% increase in 2022. I mean, that's very significant. So what else was drawing people in to become new providers?
Well, first of all, a lot of them were customers. Okay, so as we grew our customer base, we got more applications to be quality providers. I think another thing, a growth hack we had from almost the very beginning was that if you're willing to, you could say that you have inventory that you don't personally own right away. Okay?
Like a
And
pre-rental or pre-sell concept?
yeah, so we pay the quality providers when the orders come in rather than waiting until the order is complete, which would be the more prudent thing to do. So if you want to say that, you have the stroller or car seat or whatever, you can do that. We'll pay you. And then you have to hop on over to Target or Walmart or Amazon and get that piece of inventory, but you have some cash. Now, it doesn't work for everything. I mean, cribs are expensive, hard to get in a day, even from Amazon, a folding crib with the right kind of mattress and so on. So you have to be smart about it. But what that did for us is our quality providers ended up building more inventory. And that was a pretty good growth hack.
That's so smart. I love that. So again, going back to that, it's that same theme of reducing risk, right? For your quality providers where they don't have to front the cash until there's demand. And really they're not even the ones fronting the cash. It's you guys, like when you pay for the
It's like a little bit of a loan. Yeah.
exactly. Yes.
And we try to advise them. The other thing that we're constantly doing, in fact, in October is what we call QP month. And we're doing trainings on all kinds of things. They're learning from each other. As we've gotten larger, we're getting more and more manufacturers or brands who want to offer deals to our quality providers. So they get discounts on good equipment like slumber pods, and I don't even know all the brands at this point. I can't keep up with it. I'd also say that probably one of the biggest surprises to me personally was how important that community is, where they share ideas, they talk to each other. We have one official BabyQuip community. They probably have some sub communities for their city or whatever. That's fine. But when we do a survey, that's one of the things that they say they care most about.
And that tracks with your demographic. You said most of your QPs are moms. And I feel like I'm not a mom myself yet, but all of my friends who are moms, especially those who are new moms, one of the common themes I hear is, there's this loneliness in being home alone all day with your kids, or even if you're a working mom, just there's this disconnect sometimes from your peers when you're in that stage of life. And so I think I can understand why they see so much value in the community aspect beyond just growing their business, but really like just getting them through different life seasons together.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they share all kinds of things. It's fun. It's really, really fun. And that makes a difference too.
Absolutely. And you referenced just a moment ago that you also saw an increase in these quality providers, partly from existing customers who then decided to go on, the business side. Did you actively make efforts to recruit, or do you make active efforts to recruit customers where after they make a rental, do you ever send them, let's say, a follow-up email or any sort of communications letting them know like, hey, if you enjoyed your rental, you have the opportunity to also, become a quality provider? Or is that kind of more organic?
It is a little bit more organic. We've done some of those referral programs, and I think they've probably worked well enough. The QPs, they don't want us to put more people in their market.
That's fair. More competition. Yeah.
So we couldn't really rely on them to do that kind of marketing. And over the years, we've gotten better about the onboarding experience. We're constantly reinventing it. One of the things that I think is critical to our success as a brand with customers, and Ellen, we have a 93 net promoter score.
Wow. Super high.
Super high. Okay. And I attribute that to the quality providers really going above and beyond and the strength of our platform and so on. But We don't take all applicants. We actually interview them all. We put them through an onboarding and training process. They actually have to show us that they're serious about it. We make them pay a couple $100s up front. I mean, we're picky, and that probably isn't part of our success.
That makes complete sense. I mean, especially being a company that has a network of independent contractors, I would imagine that one of the most difficult aspects of managing that network is to keep a consistent standard of quality, right, across your quality providers. And so it makes sense to be really rigorous in the selection process. I am also curious, besides ongoing education and community support, what other ways are you able to maintain that quality assurance across all your providers in terms of, let's say, the cleanliness of their inventory or just little upkeep, things like that? How do you monitor or help administer that?
We do customer reviews and ratings, and so we can see. But honestly, in the 8 years practically we've been doing this, we've only probably taken off 20 quality providers for issues of cleanliness, safety, or just non-performance. I mean, they're pretty good, and I attribute that to that onboarding and filtering that we do at the beginning. But also as a company, we really reinforce the values of cleanliness, safety, going above and beyond. And that community that I talked about, that reinforces that as well. So we very rarely get a complaint. And of course, this is a highly personal category. Families are not going to go to Craigslist to rent baby gear. They want clean and safe, no question about it.
Yeah, and the convenience factor too. I mean, like I said, I'm not a parent myself, so I previously was not aware of BabyQuip because I've never personally had a need for it. But when I searched just, before interview and doing some preparation, I was, just testing the site, seeing like, okay, if I were coming to my own city, on this date, what's available? And it was really refreshing that even as a mid-sized city, we're not, a huge market by any means. There was still so much variety. There were several different providers and great track record. And I can see how the convenience aspect makes it super appealing for users, even beyond the trust factor and whatnot. You mentioned that you have about 2,600 or so QPs currently. And obviously this case study is about how you were able to grow to that number. In your vision for the continued growth of BabyQuip, do you see the expansion of the QP network, especially at those leaps and bounds of like 50%, 60% growth? Do you see that being the direction that you're working towards still? Or do you find that at some point you're hitting kind of like I don't know the best way to describe it, but like a homeostasis where it would be more in your benefit to just pour into the existing QPs rather than growing that network?
Yeah, this year was a little bit slower in terms of demand growth. We had some very, very fast growth post-pandemic as families were able to go back to travel. So 2022 was double 21, 21 was double 2019. People, when they had the chance to go back to travel, there was a lot of growth. So growth has slowed a bit with the economy and things like that. So this year we focus a little bit more on two things. One, looking at our quality provider community and seeing, okay, are these people really in it? And offboarding some amount of people who are really no longer active and focusing a little bit more on driving business to the current quality providers. I anticipate a major partnership coming soon. Can't tell you who. That is going to really make us probably more rapidly bring on more supply. Plus, as we're going into these different categories, like typically we have moms renting baby gear. Well, we might have pet owners renting pet gear. So they might be a little bit different, and that'll be interesting.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it's so smart to, like I said at the beginning, when you mentioned the pet, because pet parents, I mean, they joke about it in the media, but it's true. They are just as dedicated to our fur babies as, any other human baby. And so I think that is an incredibly smart market to tap into. And speaking of increasing supply and really investing in bringing business to current QP so that they can continue to grow, another side effect of investing in that infrastructure that contributed to your growth was that your gross merchandise value doubled from 2021 to 2022. So can you talk a little bit more about what you believe drove that? Because obviously the QPs themselves are the ones who would be buying more inventory, thus increasing the gross merchandise value available on your site. I think you mentioned there's like 100,000 items that you currently carry in your inventory across all of your quality providers. What motivated your QPs to go out and purchase more? Did you have any concentrated campaigns internally that supported them or incentivized them to increase their supply?
It's really an ongoing dialogue between our marketing team that's building demand and our supply team, right? So when we know that we're going to have major campaigns, we do promotions all the time. And we tell the quality providers, okay, we're going to promote that. We're probably in the Halloween promotion time period right now, right? So there's going to be customers are going to get emails about these kinds of deals. So we really try to tell the quality providers, this is what's coming up. At this point, we've been doing it for a long time. So right now, with the holidays coming up in November, we're trying to get customers to order early so nobody has to run out of gear. Because that's, to me, that's the worst thing if we ever run out of gear, that people cannot in any location rent the crib. So we're really trying to motivate that. I think probably the most exciting thing that did not turn out great was we were on Shark Tank and
Oh,
we knew our episode was going to air. And so we told the quality providers, Shark Tank's coming. We talked to a lot of people who had Shark Tank experience, and everybody said business will go through the roof. So I know a lot of them were buying inventory and getting ready. Our Shark Tank episode aired on March 6, 2020.
oh my gosh, of course. It's like the universe was playing a joke on you. Yeah.
Oh my God. After all that work, California essentially shut down, Disney World shut down. I mean, the pandemic, and what could we do about it? And in fact, the quality providers, everybody, we were like, well, like I said, we started the cleaning business, but basically we had to roll with it. And I think that resilience through the pandemic was really, really good for BabyQuip. And once things start to turn around, first in Florida in early 2021, it's been gangbusters. But we're getting ready to tell the quality providers that there's some exciting stuff coming down, and it's up to them.
That's exciting. So you're out there building these partnerships and then telling them, hey, here's potential business coming into our pipeline that you should prepare for. And that's kind of driving them to go out and then purchase more inventory. You referenced, for example, like seasonal campaigns. So like you said, right now in October, you're promoting Halloween. Help me understand this a little bit better because maybe I'm just not as familiar again with baby gear, but let's say you're promoting October as, a seasonal campaign and Halloween as a seasonal campaign. Are you suggesting specific products that parents might be looking to rent around Halloween? And if so, like, what does that look like?
Less about the products and more about the occasion, and more about boo-hoo, it's Halloween, rent over $200, and I don't even know what our promotion is. Rent over $200, get $30 off or 20% off or something like that. It's mostly about that. Sometimes we do things about referring a friend. Sometimes we do things about renting in advance, like renting in advance of Thanksgiving, for example, big family holiday. Sometimes we do sweepstakes with other brands that help generate our email list. We do things with influencers. So that's the exciting thing too. So influencers, and we've done hundreds and hundreds of campaigns with influencers. They're usually going to a specific market. So they want in exchange for their posting, and we disclose this as we're supposed to. They get to rent the gear for free, but we make them go through the process, pick a quality provider. And when the quality provider is the one servicing an influencer, oh, they have so much fun with that. They'll do the extra special. That said, sometimes we have influencers who come to us and we don't even know it. And then we learn about it afterwards, and they still have a good experience. Then occasionally our QPs are delivering and they don't know who their customer is, and it turns out to be a major celebrity. And
I bet that's a fun surprise and delight. Yeah.
yeah, that's a fun surprise too. So over the years, we've had quite a few. I can't really name names, but it's been kind of fun.
Very cool. Have you found, as a CEO, as you're looking at your own financial books and whatnot, do you find that increased gross merchandise value? So like as your QPs are increasing their supply, do you find that that translates to an actual higher rental value per user? So like per transaction or per rental, are you seeing an increase in what they're renting?
Yeah, generally speaking, it's been fairly solidly around $200 on average. That's on average. Now we see some orders that are really high. I mean, I saw one recently. It must have been a grandma, and she just rented tons of toys. We also see that different markets are higher. So, a family going to Hawaii is typically renting a lot more or is willing to spend more. I think this year inflation has been a concern of customers. So, I expected it to grow a little bit faster than it's grown in terms of cost, but it seems like people are trying to keep a little bit of a cap on how much they're spending. I get it. One of the things that we introduced for customers and for QPs this past year is cancellation coverage. So that it's called cancel for any reason. That if you buy this coverage, if you have to cancel, you'll get a refund. The QPs will get paid. It's really fantastic. With all the disruptions we're seeing in Florida, for example, or the Southeast from hurricanes, we're really encouraging our customers, look, if you're going someplace, plus you're dealing with small children, they get sick. Buy cancel for any reason. I know personally for my own travel, I buy cancellation insurance because I just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I feel like this is just like the recurring theme of our conversation. Risk reduction is really, I feel like, where you've shined in terms of supporting both your QPs and, like you said, your customers to really make it a no-brainer for them to continually come back to BabyQuip to rent their baby gear. Are there any other ways that we haven't covered yet that you feel like you really just want to shine a light on in terms of how you're empowering your quality providers to grow their independent businesses, and in turn, how that's, impacting BabyQuip's growth at large?
Yeah, I mean, I think as we go international, we're learning more about the challenges of having quality baby gear in different markets. That's going to make us think a little bit differently. We're thinking about more services that we can offer them to reduce their risk and improve their overall margins. So, for example, we're looking at helping them with their auto insurance.
Oh, okay. As they're driving to meet and drop off the gear.
Yeah, we introduced damage waiver insurance so that if something gets damaged or stolen, they get reimbursed for this. One of the things that we did too, car seats being highly, highly regulated, right? So our QPs can't buy secondhand car seats. They have to know where that car seat's been. And if car seat's in an accident, for the most part, most manufacturers would say, take it off, And so what we've done is if a car seat's in an accident, we'll replace it for free.
Wow.
So there's no incentive for somebody to keep a potentially damaged car seat in the inventory. Like, don't do that. So, it's definitely risk reduction for our quality providers, but also for our customers. And that's why we have a 93 Net Promoter Score.
I can see how you're really committed to the success on both sides of the transaction. So I love that. Thank you, Fran, for sharing your insights here. I think it's incredibly helpful, regardless of what model of business our listeners have. I think this recurring theme, like we've talked about, of risk reduction is something that should be front of mind for all of our entrepreneurs that are listening to the show, and how they can think through different ways that they can benefit their customers with that.
Ellen, you've asked some of the best questions I've ever been asked. So kudos to you.
Really? Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. Thank you. I really appreciate that, Fran. More than you know. More than you know. This is like interviewing is my sport. So thank
Good
you.
job.
Thank you so much. Well, where can our listeners continue to connect with you personally and what you're up to as the CEO, as well as learn more about BabyQuip, maybe start renting from BabyQuip or becoming a quality provider and renting to others?
So babyquip.com, BabyQuip. And on our homepage, you can see a button that says be a supplier or something like that. And you can also find me, Fran Maier, Maier, at LinkedIn.
Perfect. Well, all of those links will be below in the show notes for you. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you check out the video description. And if Fran, said anything that sparked an idea for you today, please take a moment to send her a message on LinkedIn, thanking her for the insight, and share what you're going to be implementing in your business. So thank you, Fran, again for joining us. And thank you all for tuning in. We'll catch you in next week's episode.
Really fun. Thank you, Ellen.